The corporate matrix didn't just leak the footage to ruin him. They paid an insider to pull the trigger. And now, the King of the South has finally caught his executioner. In an absolutely shocking, adrenaline-fueled leaked video that has completely paralyzed the music industry, Clifford T. Harris was captured cornering and publicly confronting a high-level corrupt BET producer in the dimly lit VIP parking lot of an Atlanta studio. This wasn't a civil discussion or a legal negotiation. This was a raw, aggressive, and terrifying face-to-face clash where T.I., backed by street security, physically blocked the producer's vehicle to expose the exact price tag of his betrayal. For weeks, the world believed T.I.'s catastrophic BET Awards backstage fight was just a random burst of violence that ruined his final album rollout for Kill the King. But tonight, the truth has exploded. With the camera capturing every second of the heated confrontation, T.I. slammed a stack of bank ledger printouts onto the producer's windshield, exposing a massive 6-figure payoff from a rival corporate conglomerate to deliberately leak the security tape and destroy Grand Hustle forever. The panic inside BET's executive offices has reached an absolute fever pitch as T.I. threatens to burn the entire network to the ground. Turn up your volume because this raw, unfiltered confrontation is about to expose the darkest, dirtiest secrets in modern hip-hop history. Do not look away, because the hunter has just become the prey. To truly understand how we arrived at this midnight ambush in a desolate Atlanta parking lot, we must peel back the layers of a high-stakes multi-million-dollar industry setup that began on June 26, 26. That was the day Clifford T. Harris released Kill the King, his 12th and final solo studio album. After 25 years of dominating the charts, defining the entire Atlanta trap sound, and holding down his fiercely independent Grand Hustle empire, this album was supposed to be his ultimate, undisputed victory lap. The streets were ready. The industry was watching. And 2 days later, T.I. took the stage at the 26 BET Awards, delivering an electric show-stopping performance of his classics. But while the crowd was screaming his name and celebrating a legend, a sinister, calculated corporate plot was already in motion backstage. Within minutes of stepping out of the spotlight, a violent, chaotic physical altercation broke out between T.I.'s core security team and aggressive venue staff. The world watched in absolute shock as highly edited, deeply damaging backstage footage leaked to major tabloids less than an hour later. The video was systematically cut to portray T.I. as an unstable, violent liability, completely erasing the extreme provocation he and his team had faced. The immediate fallout was catastrophic and brutally swift. Overnight, corporate sponsors pulled out of his stadium tour. Radio programmers received silent orders to pull his new tracks, and major streaming platforms implemented aggressive algorithm filters that shadow-banned Kill the King into digital oblivion. T.I.'s final independent rollout, which he had self-funded with millions of his own hard-earned dollars, was completely strangled in a matter of 48 hours. The mainstream media declared his career permanently dead, claiming the King of the South had finally decided to retire after his album release. But while the public assumed T was hiding inside his secured Atlanta estate, drowning in defeat, the rap icon was actually assembling an elite team of private digital forensic investigators. For weeks, they worked in absolute secrecy, tracking the encrypted metadata of the leaked video file across decentralized servers and private backchannels. What they discovered was a sickening, cold-blooded act of industrial espionage from within his own trusted circle. The security tape hadn't been leaked by a random bystander or a rogue guard. It had been manually extracted from the master BET production truck feed. There was only one man with a high-security clearance, the editing expertise, and the exact window of opportunity to export that specific file. Marcus wasn't a stranger. He was a senior associate producer who had traveled with T.I. for over a decade. A man who had been welcomed into the Harris family home and trusted with the keys to the Grand Hustle vault. To see a trusted brother completely sell out a 25-year legacy was a knife straight to T.I.'s throat. But the private investigators uncovered a money trail that changed everything, proving Marcus didn't just leak a video. He was the hand-picked executioner in a corporate-funded hit job specifically designed to financially ruin the independent king and force him to surrender his priceless masters. To see the chaotic real-world incident that served as the backbone for this backstage leak storyline, you can watch the T.I. Entourage and BET security altercation, which captures the raw backstage tension that pushed T.I. over the edge. The clock on the dashboard of Marcus Sterling's luxury SUV read exactly midnight as he walked out of the private, heavily secured recording facility in West Midtown, Atlanta. The night air was thick, suffocating, and dead silent, broken only by the distant hum of the city. Marcus pressed his key fob, the headlights of his vehicle flashing in the darkness, completely unaware that his entire career, his reputation, and his freedom were about to be utterly incinerated. Just as his hand reached for the door handle, the screech of tires shattered the quiet. A matte black luxury van whipped around the corner, pulling horizontally across the driveway and completely blocking his only exit. The heavy sliding doors flew open with a violent thud, and out stepped Clifford T. Harris, flanked by 3 towering, stone-faced Grand Hustle security details. The temperature in the parking lot instantly dropped to sub-zero as I walked slowly into the glare of the SUV's headlights, his eyes burning with a quiet, lethal rage that Marcus had never seen before. "You thought you were slick, didn't you, Marcus?" T said, his voice dangerously low, slicing through the night like a razor blade. "You sat in my studio, drank my liquor, shook my hand, and then walked straight into that production truck to sell my entire legacy to the highest bidder." Marcus froze, his face turning an ashen, ghostly gray as he tried to play dumb, his hands visibly trembling as he backed up against his car door. He stammered, claiming he had absolutely nothing to do with the leak, begging TI to believe that the network must have leaked the footage from their own internal servers. "But I didn't drive across Atlanta at midnight to have a debate." He came armed with absolute, undeniable receipts. Stepping directly into the producer's personal space, TI slammed a heavy, thick manila folder onto the hood of the SUV with enough force to dent the metal. Inside were printed digital bank ledgers, wire transfer receipts, and encrypted email threads that TI's elite forensic team had extracted from a secure offshore server. The financial records revealed a staggering transfer of $250,000 into Marcus' private offshore account, executed less than 30 minutes after the backstage fight at the BET Awards had concluded. The sender of the funds wasn't BET or its parent company. It was a highly secretive multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerate known as Horizon Media Holdings, the exact same parent consortium that holds massive financial stakes in the primary streaming platforms that have been actively trying to force independent labels to surrender their legacy master catalogs. The confrontation became incredibly heated as TI grabbed Marcus by his designer collar, dragging him closer to the glowing screen of a camera his team was holding to document every single second of the encounter. "Look at the camera, Marcus. Tell the world how you took $250,000 to edit that tape and make my team look like absolute criminals on national television." T roared, his voice echoing off the concrete walls of the vacant lot, his face twisted in absolute righteous fury. "You didn't just leak a video. You committed industrial espionage to help your corporate handlers blacklist my final album. You literally tried to steal the food out of my family's mouth." Marcus was hyperventilating, his eyes darting frantically to the towering security guards blocking any path of escape. The sheer weight of his betrayal was crushing him, and he knew there was no way out of this trap. And that is when the first massive stomach-turning twist exploded right there on the asphalt. Marcus, completely broken and terrified of the physical and legal consequences of his actions, collapsed to his knees on the wet pavement. Sobbing openly, his hands clasped together, he confessed that he was indeed the one who extracted and edited the video. But then he dropped a bombshell that completely shifted the blame to the absolute top of the industry. Marcus revealed that the backstage fight at the BET Awards was never a random accident or a simple misunderstanding. The venue security team had been explicitly instructed and handsomely paid by a high-ranking BET executive to aggressively provoke TI's entourage the moment they stepped off the stage. The network had planned the entire altercation weeks in advance. They knew TI was fiercely protective of his team, and they intentionally created a volatile, high-stress scenario to guarantee a violent reaction. Marcus was simply the designated industry hitman hired to capture, edit, and distribute the footage. The entire BET backstage clash was a premeditated corporate engineered hit job designed to destroy TI's independent leverage and force him to sign over his grand hustle masters to the conglomerate. The immediate aftermath of this midnight parking lot confession sent absolute shockwaves of terror through the highest executive offices of the entertainment industry. The raw, unfiltered footage of TI forcing the corrupt producer Marcus Sterling to admit to a pre-planned industrial hit job was uploaded directly to an anonymous, encrypted video sharing portal before being systematically mirrored across TikTok X and the most guarded underground hip-hop forums in the country. The internet didn't just react. It completely erupted into a state of total digital anarchy. Within minutes, the hashtags BET exposed and justice for Tip began trending with such astronomical velocity that they completely eclipsed every other news story on the planet. The public was suddenly forced to confront a terrifying new reality. The legend they had spent weeks criticizing wasn't a violent, temperamental liability. He was the target of a highly coordinated, multi-million-dollar corporate conspiracy. But the escalation didn't stop at public outrage. Just as the network's public relations department scrambled to draft a generic, hollow statement denying the allegations, a secondary, infinitely more horrifying leak dropped directly from TI's private forensic team. An internal classified email thread verified by independent digital security firms provided undeniable proof of direct coordination between senior BET executives and the shadowy corporate consortium Horizon Media Holdings. One specific message from the executive VP of programming to Marcus Sterling was leaked in its entirety. "Make sure the camera crew in Sector 4 is locked on his team the moment they leave the stage. The security guys know exactly what to do. If Cliff reacts, we need the cut file on my desk within 15 minutes. Horizon is ready to deploy the streaming restriction protocols as soon as the media runs the story. This reveal was so sickening that it immediately triggered a massive high-profile backlash from some of the most influential figures in the music industry. Prominent independent artists began publicly pulling their entire catalogs from the corporate-owned streaming platforms in a massive act of solidarity with T.I., refusing to let the Matrix control their art or their narratives any longer. The corporate structure was suddenly facing an existential crisis. The stock prices of the parent conglomerate began a free fall as major advertisers, terrified of the public association with industrial espionage, frantically demanded emergency meetings to distance themselves from the scandal. Yet, even as the industry prepared for a monumental legal battle, a chilling dark rumor began circulating out of the Atlanta underground that made the situation infinitely more dangerous. Sources close to the legal defense team confirmed that the corrupt executive named in the leaked email thread was actively hiring a team of high-powered off-the-books corporate cleanup specialists to neutralize Marcus Sterling. The goal was to permanently silence the producer before he could testify in a federal court regarding the Backstage provocation plan. The music industry had officially transformed into a life-or-death battlefield, and T.I. was no longer just fighting for his masters. He was fighting to keep his primary witness alive. Every major news outlet in the country, from the traditional broadcast networks to the largest digital conglomerates, found themselves in a state of absolute paralysis. They couldn't ignore the proof, but they were terrified of the legal wrath of the consortium that owns them. T was effectively acting as his own media house, bypassing the traditional gatekeepers and speaking directly to the people. But as the industry waited for the next shoe to drop, a terrifying discovery was made inside T.I.'s own inner circle. The forensic team found a secondary hidden recording device inside the very recording facility where T.I. had confronted Marcus, suggesting that the producer hadn't been the only one recording the interaction. Someone else had been listening to every single word someone who had known T was coming to the parking lot all along. The global urban entertainment landscape has officially transformed into a smoking crater of absolute, unbridled outrage. The shocking raw video of T.I. extracting a tearful confession from Marcus Sterling in that dimly lit Atlanta parking lot has completely unified the hip-hop community in a way we haven't seen in decades. This wasn't just another standard internet beef or celebrity drama. It was the definitive, undeniable proof that the corporate matrix is a physical, calculating entity actively working to systematically destroy independent artists. Across every major social network, servers are actively buckling under the sheer volume of millions of furious viewers demanding the immediate termination of the entire executive board at BET, with fans organizing massive nationwide boycotts of the network and any streaming platforms associated with Horizon Media Holdings. During an emergency, highly explosive broadcast of his top-rated podcast, Joe Button completely lost his mind, slamming his fists onto his desk and screaming directly into his microphone with raw, cracking emotion. I told you all. I told you for years that these corporate entities are hunting independent legacy artists. And you all laughed. Button roared, his face turning red with fury. We just watched a senior producer, a man T fed, a man who slept in his guest house, confess on camera to taking $250,000 to edit a security tape. They literally engineered a physical security clash backstage at an award show just to have a legal reason to destroy the role out of T.I.'s final album, Kill the King. This is a level of institutional sickness and greed that should terrify every single artist walking this earth. If they can pull a coordinated, multi-million-dollar corporate hit job on a 25-year cultural titan like Clifford Harris, what do you think they're doing to these young independent kids who don't have the money to hire forensic investigators? The entire executive board of that network needs to be indicted on federal racketeering charges immediately. Yet, in sharp clinical contrast to the widespread cultural heartbreak and anger, T.I.'s eternal digital rival, 50 Cent, wasted absolutely no time capitalizing on the viral chaos for maximum engagement. He immediately flooded his official feeds with a relentless mocking cyber barrage, uploading a hide-a-fin looping clip of the corrupt producer crying on his knees in front of T.I.'s car. "Damn, Cliff, you out here playing Batman in the dark?" 50 Cent wrote in a highly inflammatory caption that instantly sparked a separate internet firestorm. "You got the executive producer crying on his knees like he's auditioning for a role in Power. I told you a long time ago these corporate guys don't love you, man. But seriously, if they paid him $250,000 just to leak a 15-minute tape, they must really be terrified of your independent catalog. Let me know if you need some real gun-it security to handle these executives." The public square has now locked itself into a state of absolute toxic polarization. While traditionalists are calling for a complete industry-wide shutdown of corporate-controlled platforms, younger digital creators are debating whether T.I. went too far by physically confronting the producer himself, arguing that this vigilantism could hurt his active legal cases. The divide is growing deeper by the hour, but the outrage is only burning hotter as major independent artists begin to take a stand, pulling their music from the corporate grid in solidarity. The lines are drawn, the fire is spreading, and the entire industry is waiting to see who survives the fallout. Just when the global collective audience believed that T.I. had successfully exposed the corrupt plot and reclaimed his absolute honor, the narrative didn't just shift, it experienced a total catastrophic inversion that has left the entire legal and financial infrastructure of the music business in a state of absolute blind panic. At exactly 3:45 a.m., a hidden digital countdown timer was suddenly activated on the official Grand Hustle Records domain, flashing a glowing crimson clock counting down to exactly 48 hours from this very moment. Along with the clock, a heavily distorted audio file from T.I.'s private home studio network was uploaded directly to the landing page, accompanied by a single, terrifying line of plain text: "The trap is closed." The full execution begins in 48 hours. The shocking reality behind this counteroffensive has completely flipped the script on who the real targets of this exposure actually are. High legal insiders operating deep within the federal regulatory circuits of Atlanta have quietly confirmed that the corrupt producer Marcus Sterling wasn't just a simple traitor who got caught. During the final moments of the recorded parking lot confrontation, after the camera was supposedly turned off, Marcus handed T a highly encrypted physical cold storage hard drive. The documents on that drive don't just protect T.I.'s personal catalog. They contain a series of highly classified, illegally recorded boardroom audio tapes exposing a massive secret cartel operated by the top streaming platforms and distribution houses. The evidence explicitly details a coordinated multi-year plan to artificially suppress the algorithms of independent black-owned record labels, forcing these legacy artists into artificial financial crisis. So the consortium could acquire their historic master catalogs for pennies on the dollar. T knew that the moment he launched his final independent album, Kill the King, the corporate machine, would try to destroy him. He intentionally allowed them to set the Backstage trap, knowing they would expose their own corrupt system to the world. He baited the corporate matrix into committing federal crimes to capture him. And now he holds the nuclear codes to the entire music industry. Think about the gravity of this situation. This isn't just about a leaked Backstage fight anymore. This is a multi-billion-dollar antitrust, racketeering, and corporate espionage scandal that could land some of the most powerful executives in the music industry in actual federal prison. As we speak, the entire corporate hierarchy is in an absolute frenzy, with emergency, closed-door meetings being called from the skyscrapers of New York all the way to the tech campuses of Silicon Valley. T.I. is currently locked inside his heavily secured Atlanta compound, completely silent, surrounded by his legal team and federal whistleblowers. While the elite executives implicated in the leak have completely vanished from the public eye, the countdown timer is ticking away relentlessly on the Grand Hustle network. And the terrifying question hanging over the entire culture is simple. What happens when that clock hits absolute zero? Will we witness the total systemic collapse of the modern streaming monopoly? Or will the Matrix find a way to silence the King of the South before the world? Here's the truth. The final chapter of this historic war hasn't even been written yet, and the incoming blast radius promises to completely incinerate the reputations of hip-hop's highest billionaires. The absolute point of no return has just been crossed, and the world is holding its breath. Did the corporate matrix completely underestimate the King of the South? Or did T.I. just sign his own industry death warrant by threatening these billionaires? Will the feds make actual arrests when that Grand Hustle countdown hits zero? Let us know your wildest theories in the comments right now. Stand with Team Tip, or expose the Matrix. To beat the shadow bans and get the exact second Bibby condominium breakdown the moment those nuclear boardroom tapes leak, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on all notifications immediately. The war for the soul of hip-hop is burning in real time. Stay alert.